Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Rooted and Rising. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so yet. Rooted and Rising is a place where we talk about growth, discipline, and why sometimes leg day can solve more problems than therapy itself. My guest today is someone who lives and breathes fitness. He's a coach, motivator, and the man who believes that your excuses should sweat more than you do. My warmest welcome to Mr. Crysthian Rivas. Hello, Christian. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm very good.
Thank you for having me in here today. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming to the show. Christian, you grew up in Mexico, correct?
Yes. Yeah. It's a kind of an interesting story. And a lot of people really don't even believe me. They've known me for 15 plus years, and every time I bring up the fact that I was born in a Mexican circus, a lot of times they're like, I thought that was a joke. And I'm like, no, I'm for real. For serious. That's where my roots essentially started, was there.
Wow. So did your fitness journey start in Mexico or was it somewhere else?
I would say, technically speaking, I would say it started in Mexico because growing up in the circus, I had pretty high expectations to become I was exposed to basically trapeze, trampoline, acrobats. You can call them calisthenics nowadays. And they got me working, lifting chairs and stuff like that as well from a very young age. However, I would say that in terms of actually fitness and what we're imagining nowadays is here in Canada. Young child, I got very much involved in sports. I realized that's something that I was kind of more genetically gifted in. And being in sports, eventually by grade 9 or grade 10, I started playing football. And there's a required class called strength and conditioning. And that's the first time I was ever exposed to weightlifting and, the actual thing when you see in the gym and everything. So I would say that was the real experience when it comes to lifting.
Okay. And how did you become a fitness trainer?
Well, I would say basically ever since I was in high school, and so I started lifting, essentially I realized that that's something not only that I enjoyed doing, but that's something I was really good at. But more importantly is the effects that it had on me.
Okay.
I had I would say a very, very, very interesting upbringing, and I was exposed to a lot of things that maybe a lot of people were exposed to in this life. And going into the gym specifically, not saying that's the only place, you mean boxing, swimming, running, or any kind of fitness, really pulled me out of a dark place. You know what I mean? And if it can pull someone like me out of a dark place, I imagine it could do that for anyone. And that's what really drove me to want to become a fitness instructor, not necessarily seeing people grow physically, but the transformation you see when people are either in a studio for the first time or the gym for the first time, how they're timid. You can just sense their energy where they're nervous. And then just in a few months, or depending on their pace, they essentially transform the inside out. And that's what I really fall in love with and realize that it's something I want to do for the rest of my life.
So fitness didn't just change your body?
No, absolutely not. And I truly believe that for me at least, it's a God-given thing that your body happens to benefit from it and change overall. But I think initially I was thinking I need to do all these things for myself, whether it's a stress relief. And a lot of times, especially now, I feel people have a hard time releasing stress, and any form of fitness done really properly and with a lot of intention, I feel can really release a lot of that stress that we aren't able to do on a day-to-day basis.
That is so true. That is so true. Sometimes when we don't have an outlet to bring the emotions out, I think gym or working out is one of the most efficient stress buster as well, right?
Absolutely.
It has worked wonders for my anxiety personally, and I think it is one of the stress busters for so many people. Yeah, in a very constructive way.
Yeah, and I just find it also so beautiful that that's just how it's structured. You have to go through rigorous things and go through pain essentially, and basically break down the muscle. Your muscle tissue literally has to rip apart. And of course, with resting is very important for yourself to kind of grow back. And I feel like it's a beautiful thing that goes not just in a physical way, but also in a mental and spiritual way where you need to go through pain essentially to grow,
Yes.
Given that the pain can either, build you, but it can also wreck you if you don't translate it in a good way, if that makes sense.
Yes. If you don't acknowledge it as well, right?
Yes. I think a lot of us too, I would say especially it's getting a little bit better, but I feel like for my mom, for example, or anyone in that generation, even including myself, a millennial, talking about your feelings, your anxiety, for example. Like growing up when I was in the circus, like there is no anxiety. That just wasn't a thing. People wouldn't talk about it. Even when my first few years in Canada, it wasn't. It was kind of a taboo thing to talk about. Your emotions and feelings. And I grew up in a household where it's like, don't talk about it. Endure, put your head down. Which can work. I'm not saying it's not going to work, but it's going to have a limit. And once you hit that limit, generally that's a very destructive outcome at the end of the day.
Yep.
And especially like you said, if there's no, because you have that stress.
Yeah.
You're either gonna use something with it. If you go to the gym, you're gonna have a positive outlet, or you might result to, maybe drinking excessively or smoking or a different way. You know. But I feel like fitness is one of those things where it's a very vast thing. When people think about working out, they generally think about the gym. But depending on your personality and your time and what you have, I really believe that any form of fitness done correctly with the right amount of coaching can be very, very beneficial.
Yeah, definitely. If getting practical, we're talking about workouts here, right? And the fitness and the gym. How many times should an average adult work per week?
I would break it down to 3 different parts. I would say, like, generally for the average person, 3 to 5 times per week is efficient. If you're a beginner, meaning like you just started, or between just starting to about 6 months to maybe a year, I would say that's kind of a beginner level. I would say maybe 3 days a week. I would say full body, but in the structure that you're doing for those 3 days, there should be a hinge, there should be a press, there should be a squat, and there should be core. Generally trying to lean towards more of the machines, a little less of the free weights, but definitely trying to encourage the movements of squatting and hinging in the free weights. But again, strengthening your core and focusing on the other more basic movements first is important. For intermediate people, meaning like a year to 2-3 years, I would kind of recommend if you have 3 days, I would say 3 to 4 days. You could do like upper, so just your upper body, a lower, so just your lower body, and if you have the extra time to do so, a cardio day, and then a full body.
Okay.
So that's kind of more of our intermediate, still keeping like the hinge and everything, and what I mentioned for the previous beginners in mind. However, now leaning more into the free weights, trying to get away from the machines a little bit more, increasing the intensity or the volume depending what your goals are, and then into like more of an advanced role. I would say moving into like a legs push pull aspect between 5 to 6 times a week, and again increasing the volume, increasing the intensity, gradually, of course. And then just on my just a bonus side note is like a 7 days a week. This is something that like is talked to in the internet a lot. It's like, should we be training 7 days a week? And I would say, in my opinion, 95 to 99% of the time, probably not a great idea. 7 days a week. But for that 1% to 5%, these are people who are athletes or people who are professionals, I would say, who are going to be leaning towards that way. And if you are leaning towards 7 days a week, it's not necessarily 7 days of just heavy lifting.
Okay.
You'd be the program would be more complex, where you will be doing mobility work in some of those days, lifting heavy on some of those days, doing cardio, and almost like a rest day, but you're still maybe moving through mobility exercises or any weaknesses you may have. But again, that 7 days a week, if you do end up doing it, it's not going to be sustainable for a long time.
Oh yeah.
Right. So that's why I would say, for any athlete or anyone trying to train for something that is rigorous like that, sure, but just understand that, know what your limit is, and once you hit that limit, to make sure that you hit the brakes a little bit.
Hit the pause.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't follow the destroy your body with once a week strategy.
Once a week, meaning
just go and just pick the heaviest weight once a week, and then you're like, oh, I'm so sore for the rest of the days.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. This is a marathon, as you hear. It's not a sprint. Given I would still get like clap to the person that goes once a week compared to the person who doesn't go once a week or at all. But again, it's just not going to be the benefit. Time is very valuable in this day and age, in any day and age. So if you're going to be trying to improve your fitness, you might as well try to do it in a way that's going to be the most beneficial for what the time that is available for you.
Yeah. Yeah. They say that you won't find motivation every day, right? So it's better that you have that discipline. So consistency is the key in the long run.
Yes,
right?
yes, 100%. I would say there's a quote that's super beautiful. I don't know exactly how it goes, but something along the lines of the river doesn't necessarily cut the rock bank because of its power, but because of its consistency over
Yeah.
time. You know, and motivation is something that is it comes and goes, you know. And I used to be about motivation a lot when I was a lot younger. But the thing about motivation is you need to feel like discipline and motivation are two different things, or motivation and being driven are two different things. When you're motivated, there has to be a feeling, you know.
Correct.
You have to feel a certain way that affects you a certain way to then take action. So trying to bank on your feelings all the time is never going to be a good idea, because as a human being, you're not always going to feel motivated. You might have a couple days, a couple weeks, sometimes a couple months when you feel like doing something, but eventually that's going to drop. And being disciplined or being driven is more important, because it doesn't matter how you feel, whether you feel really good, motivated or not, sick or whatever the case is, you're still going to do what you have to do. And it's better to go through that discipline, and maybe you don't have the best workout, or you know, you don't feel great doing it, but you're still going to have a much better overall journey when you are doing things even though we don't want to do them, you know. So that's kind of, I would say, the main difference between being motivated and being disciplined is, one, there has to be a movement for it, or you have to be feeling something, or the other one, regardless of how you feel, you have to do it. Yeah, you have to do it. Yeah, there's no other way. And I think it's the best feeling on the days when you really don't want to do anything, but you still do it. And then I think you feel so accomplished after that. Yes. And I think like one big thing too with that is that people, that's where you find your limits. You know, there's physical limits and there's mental limits. And I can think of one specific leg day. It's funny that you said that earlier. Is I was having a terrible day. This when I was working construction, and I was also personal training. I was super tired. I had every excuse in the book. I was gonna go train legs with my friend, and I was, again, bad sleep. I didn't eat the greatest that day. I just came off a construction shift. I had every excuse in the book. I felt really sore, and generally going into the gym, in my brain, I'm like, I'm gonna hurt myself today. I think I'm gonna hurt myself today, but you know what? I'm here. I'm gonna go in there. I'm gonna try my best. Yeah. Going into it, I tried to change my perspective on how I felt, and what ended up happening is I actually ended up having personal best that day. Like I think it was in deadlifts, I got a PR that day, and it was different lift that I also got a PR that day, which goes to show you I was in a state where I'm like, oh, I'm gonna hurt myself. This is the worst day ever. I wish I just go home and sleep. And then it turns out that if I didn't show up, I wouldn't have got that PR. So true. Yeah. Yeah. So always show up. Yeah, always show up. even show up, because showing up is still better than not showing up, you know. And sometimes in the fitness classes, I tell people, like, even if you just show up to the class and just lay on your mat, I'll be much happier, because at least you made a commitment to come here and be here. And if you do show up to your mat, you might get a little motivation. You might be like, you know what, I'm here already. And then suddenly you're in a much better position than being at home in your bed. Yes, and I couldn't agree with that more. And I do it too sometimes. Sometimes I go in there and I was like, hey, I just need to be here. And I lay there and I just see everyone else like training super hard and sweating. And I just I get lifted by them, and I start training myself. Yeah, definitely. So, Christian, let's talk about if someone is new to training. What should they train if they want to see the real motivation or like real transformation? Like I would say, I would break that up to two things. So like if you're trying to look, get the most visually out of training, I would say the first three muscle groups to train are going to be your shoulders, your back, and your legs. Because given visually, well, first of all, your shoulders can take a lot of load, and then they also grow quite quickly if trained properly. And to just give you that V taper look that a lot of people look for. Same with your back. If you're training your back properly and everything, it just kind of gives you that V taper that everyone saws after. And also your legs, great, because everyone wants big booty. Everyone wants a big booty and nice legs, right? So I would say that. But in terms of like transformation physically or overall just for physically, definitely legs is number one. Legs is going to be, well, talking about like humans in general, like what's the one thing we do the most besides like breathing? It's going to be our legs. We're walking, we're running, we're going upstairs, we're going downstairs, and it's just the most human thing. So why not make sure that we train those? And on top of that, too, it's been studies show that the stronger your legs are, the better your longevity is as you get older. Because one of the biggest risks as we get older is falling. So if you have a very strong legs and a strong core, which is the second most important muscle for overall health that you want, looks for transformation, is your core is going to be a huge thing for your posture, your balance, especially when you get older, avoiding falling and everything like that. And then I would say the third one would be your back, because our back is one of the most important parts of our body as well, and one of the biggest part of our body as well.
Yeah. So people can stop living on their bicep days.
But also girls, a lot of girls just train their legs all the time. But I've been invited to a lot of girls where like, yeah, we're training legs. And I'm just, Alicia. Alicia's one of, she's my boss here. She owns Kismet Studio. And it was the first actual leg day I've had trained in probably like 5-6 years, because I've been doing a lot of full body like workouts recently, and I died. I'll just let you know I died. Shout out to Alicia, by the way.
Yeah. She is the strongest woman I know. Definitely.
The things that woman does is like I right now I'm struggling with doing my gym stuff, going to, and teaching my classes, and doing a little extra. Alicia, sometimes she comes from a leg day, does 2 or 3 classes, and then she goes and snowboards, and I'm just like, I'm not gonna lie, one of the biggest motivators for me nowadays is Alicia. She's a different beast, as like they like to say.
Yes, definitely. Huge shout out to Alicia. We love her.
Love Alicia.
Okay. If I have to ask you, you tell me, what is a good lower body workout for you to say, well done, it's good?
Like for a beginner, intermediate, or for myself, like for
let's go for yourself.
Myself. So what I would love for a leg day basically is my glutes are tiny, they're strong, but they're tiny. So I would start with Bulgarian split squats personally. Well, of course, great warm up. For me, I've been doing a lot less volume, but the intensity is much higher. So for my warm up, I'll do maybe 5-10 minutes on the stair climber or skipping. I love to skip. Those are the 2 that I like to go to. And then I spend a good 20 minutes actually just warming up, getting my quads, my hamstrings, and my glutes fired up with low weights. I'll still be doing similar movements like hinging or hip thrusts or quad extensions, but just to warm up the muscles. And once I feel that my lower body is warm and my full body is warm, I'll go into a Bulgarian split squat, but hinging forward, because I do wanna hit the glutes a lot more.
Yeah.
So rather than being straight up and down, hinging from the hip, it's gonna do a lot more for the glutes. So I would start with that. Then I would go into a preferably barbell hip thrust. I am going a lot lighter right now. I think the most I do right now is 2 plates, but a very strong hold, because I really want to make sure that the contraction is really good. And from that, I'll go into squats, only 2 sets. Again, I'm doing less volume, but higher intensity. It'll just be 2 sets of 8. And then finishing it off with adduction. It's not just for the ladies. The machine is not just for the ladies, so we'll do that, and then 2 calf raises. For me, that's a great leg day.
You did mention about warming up. How important is that?
Very important, especially as like I'm uncle status now. I'm 31 now. But as we get older, it always depends on the person as well. If someone has like a high if they're athletes when they were younger, or they have maybe a gymnast background, or they were trained in that way, they're a little bit less sustainable. But as we get older, it's very much important to warm up, just because we're more prone to injury at this point in time, you know? And on that note, I would say a lot of people do not necessarily... Mobility work is very like on the low end of the importance level, you know what I mean? And until we get injured, unfortunately, or we get a little bit older, does it become more important to us. But if we're able to get a head start on it, it's just gonna, number one, increase your strength. People think because you do mobility, it's gonna like, for whatever reason, make you less stronger. But the more range of motion you have in the joint, is gonna make you stronger. And also just protecting yourself. Like I'm very grateful that I haven't had sustained a lot of injuries. Alicia's always telling me go to the flows, and trying to balance it out is a little bit more difficult, but don't wait until it's too late. And I think a lot of us do that, or we have to go through some kind of big injury for us to start
to understand that. That really makes sense. Christian, let's talk about the flat tummy obsession. We have those clients all the time, right? They are like, we are fine on our body, we are fine with our arms, with our legs, we just want to reduce the tummy rolls. But they don't understand that's not possible to just reduce that. I've seen people spending hours just doing crunches, but nothing changes. Please enlighten our audience about that.
Yeah, first of all, crunches are probably like the most like overrated thing in the world. People just think if you do a bunch of crunches, you're going to magically get some abs. Two things. Number one is that there is no target fat loss. There is no target fat loss. All right. When I was my whole career being a trainer or Club 16 or even here, one of the most common things, particularly more in ladies, especially, I'm talking to you ladies, is hey, like I need to lose fat here. You know, the main thing is I want to lose fat here and I want to lose my fat here. And unfortunately, there is no target fat loss. I'm sorry to tell you, there is no target fat loss. Depending on your genetics and how you're born, your body decides on its own. You know, for me, for example, my legs have always been skinny. I got the chicken legs. I've never had any fat on my legs, so that's the least amount. When I start gaining weight, it happens in my face, in my chest, in my arms, and my belly, you know? And when I start losing weight, for me, it goes my face, my arms, my belly, and then my legs. So everyone's a little bit different. And also on that note, your body also decides where the fat goes. You know, some people get it in their legs, some people get it in the midsection, some people get it in their arms, etc., etc. So you cannot do that. And unfortunately, a big part of that is because of the online Instagram, TikToks, YouTubes, where it's like, do this and you'll get abs. Do this, and it's like, no, that's not how it goes.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
the 30-day flat belly challenges, eh?
crazy.
So, Christian, from my understanding, as a science student and now as a fitness instructor, I understand that abs, they're built in the kitchen. Right?
Absolutely.
So you need full body strength training for that and also consistency.
Yes.
So there are no shortcuts. There's no like torture workouts that are only going to target your
No,
abs.
absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I would even say like, yeah, it's in terms of like, if you're talking about the showing of your abs, the more important thing is going to be the being in the kitchen. Abs are made in the kitchen. You hear it all the time. And the way I would describe it is if you were training really well, you know, you're training 5 days a week, you're training really well, and you were just eating like absolute shit, absolute garbage, compared to if you were eating really, really good and you understand your macros, your calorie deficit, and you've been consistent with that all the way through, but your training is shit, the person who is eating really well and training like shit is going to be a lot more likely to get the abs quicker than the person who is training really well but then eating like shit.
Yeah, definitely. So you know how they say that 20% is your workout, but 80% is the rest of your day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would say like a lot of people think like people underestimate the potential and power of being able to just go for that extra walk or walking the dog or you know choosing to go up and down the stairs instead. Because I would say that is almost more important than going and I don't know, going to one of those 30-day challenge, you know, torturing things. Just go outside, take an extra 15-minute walk, you know, maybe walk your dog or pick up a pickleball or whatever that case is, because over time that's going to compound and make a much bigger difference than you trying to do some kind of like 30-day challenge, you know, and then like lose motivation probably and lose discipline because at the end of those 30 days, let's just say you do them perfectly. You do everything the person on the Instagram said, and then suddenly nothing changed, or maybe you had a little bit of change, and now you're gonna be discouraged. And now you're back to step one.
Definitely, yeah. You did mention about women. Let's get into that. Women and fitness. So, Christian, first mentality that I want to correct here is that women feel they're going to a gym or a fitness class to become skinny, but the goal should be to get strong.
Yes.
Yeah. What would you say about that?
I would say that socially things have changed. I would say back in the like 90s, 80s, early 2000s, it was about being super skinny. You know, America's top model, and you would like now look at even that. I was really young when I saw that, but like now seeing it as an adult and seeing how skinny people were and people being told they're fat, it's like holy, that's crazy. But thankfully, in the last couple of years, we've been getting a swing of where like you know. I think you call it muscle mommy. I don't know what they call it, but you know, like you know, being fit and being strong is becoming the sexy. You know, which
strong is the new sexy.
Yes, which I 100% agree with. You know, and my opinion, I'm not a woman at all, but just basing on, would you rather, if you're trying to be just be skinny and then or be strong? I just, from a logical point of view, the being strong just has. The pros outweigh the cons, you know. Sure, if you're skinny, you'll look skinny, maybe you'll feel great. But if you're strong, you know, you'll be confident. You know, you'll build muscle, and on top of the benefits of lifting, not just for women, but like for women, of course, like the risk of decreasing the risk of chronic disease. You know, the metabolism increasing, your energy levels increasing, and more importantly as well is women actually the bone density is declines, especially after menopause for women.
Oh, yes.
And lifting weights is one of the best ways to not just sustain but increase your bone density as well. So I would say it was even more important for that. Especially if any women out there trying to have children, and try to keep up with your children, because once you have your child, you're gonna have to. I've had a couple of women where they had to do a C-section, and then they had a lot of weakness in their abs, and especially for those women as well, it's like almost 10 times more as important.
Oh, yeah.
And if you want to be running around with your kids, and keep up with your kids, then that's your mentality. Then lifting and being strong is going to be much better than just being skinny.
Definitely. Christian, there's also one myth around women lifting weight. They say you'll become manly. I haven't become manly. I lift a lot of weight.
No, that's I would say that's very common as well. Is that I want to tone. I don't want to get bulky. And I'm telling you, if I've yet to meet a woman or even a man who accidentally got bulky. That doesn't happen like that.
Yeah.
And if anything, if you train and go to the gym and do what your trainer says, you're more likely to get toned first before you getting bulky. Just be straight up with your coach and what you want and what your goals are. Because unless you're like, hey, I want to go to the Olympics and become a weightlifter, I'm not gonna be getting you to lift three to 5 rep range or anything like that. So for all you women out there, por favor, you will not get bulky, all right? Take the risk. Trust me, the risk is worth it.
Definitely. And I'll share an incident. It happened in one of my fitness classes, and I encouraged the people. I was doing upper body, and I was like, okay, grab heavy weights. And this very beautiful girl, and she goes, no, I don't want bulky arms. I'll rather grab very light weights. I want Pilates arms. And I was like, is that a thing? And she goes, yeah.
Yeah, Pilates has been a very popular thing, especially with the transformers and everything. I'm not saying it's not a hard workout. I'm not saying it's it doesn't have its benefits. I've gone to one of those transformers workouts in Vancouver, and it was difficult. I had a very hard time, but that's where high rep, low rep, mid rep, there is specific ranges that are supposed to be a little bit more beneficial than the others. But whether you're lifting 6 to 10 reps or 15 to 20 reps, if you're really challenging your muscle and then also slowly increasing the volume or the intensity, you're going to get results. But it's not like you're just in 2-3 months, even 6 months, you're going to have huge arms and look like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah. I personally believe that lifting weights or strength training is one of the best exercises for women or men, right? And also I feel that it is very anti-aging. It's a fountain of youth.
Look at you. Great example.
So I would definitely credit. I mean, anyone who's really scared that, you shouldn't be lifting weights, you should be lifting weights, irrespective of 20 or 80 years old, right? Doesn't matter.
And they say stress is the cousin of no. The stress is the silent killer. And one of the main reasons is that we end up aging a lot is because of the internal stress, and weightlifting specifically, especially if you're lifting a little bit heavier and pushing yourself to where you're supposed to, that's where we can release a lot of the stress.
Definitely.
So Fountain of Youth, if you're looking for it, it's just down the road at your local gym.
All right. And Christian, if you have to give our beautiful women audience any tips if they are starting their fitness journey, say any 3 tips for them. They're just beginners. What should they do?
As beginners, for ladies, I would say number 1 is what do you want? First of all, what is your main goals? Is it aesthetics? Are you training to be something? Are you mobile? What are your goals? Be clear about what those things are. And then followed by getting a coach, or a good friend. If you have a good friend out there who's knowledgeable and trustworthy, sure, take advice from them. But if you're really serious about those goals, you'll go out and get a coach or a trainer or whatever the case is. Tell them what your goals are specifically, and it should help you out. Number 2, you got your trainer, you got your little program and everything. You kind of got the basics. Next thing you need to do is going to be I would say set deadlines and set goals, essentially, with deadlines. Because depending on what kind of trainer or coach you have, they're not going to be your motivator or your discipline. That's going to be on your end, So setting boundaries or setting goals with deadlines, especially for me, kind of help a lot. And then number 3, I would say, which is very important, is do not compare, especially if you're new. Even with me, when I first started going to the gym after graduating high school, the first time I went to a gym, I think it was Club 16, I'm pretty sure. I felt nervous, and I worked out before. I was taught for almost 2-3 years at that point. I've been lifting for a few years, but I even felt anxious going into and there's a couple of machines. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
What the hell is this? But also trying to compare to other people and looking to see whatever it's never going to do any good. Understand what your goals are, focus on those, and yes, stick to it. But please don't compare anybody because it's going to very much discourage you. If you walk into the gym, you see a girl like hip thrusting free plates, which I see all the time, which is crazy. You're going to be a little bit discouraged. But take it day by day, be present. I would say those are probably like the main three things that I would say.
That's very great advice. Crysthian, let's talk about a sweet spot age. Let's talk about 36 to 46 years old. I have lots of listeners who are in that age frame. What changes at this age?
So that's the thing is, right now, but right around between 35 plus, all of things start changing like internally, you know? So first of all, our bone density starts to begin to decrease. Our muscle mass, depending on how much you're doing or genetics as well, you start decreasing 3 to 8% per decade, right? So your muscle mass starts degrading. Our cartilage and our joints also start degrading a little bit. So it is very much important to keep going to the gym because all those things can be helped with weightlifting. And also people around those ages as well, probably have kids. You know, I bring them up a lot because kids are a very important part of our life, and a lot of times people want to keep up with them, and it doesn't really occur to them. You know, you live life, and suddenly you hit 45, 40, and you start, you're bent over, and you can't keep up, and now suddenly you're like, I'm not being able to do these things with my children because of decisions I made. So I would say, if you're going to be around that age and you're brand new, it is important to try to find a coach, especially for 55 plus, 55 plus. If you're starting for the first time, it's not too late. It's definitely not too late. But getting a trainer who is specifically trained for that age group, because they are going to need different needs and attention. So I would say, don't be discouraged if you're worried about starting. But it's better for you to start now than later because time doesn't stop for anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Crysthian, we have talked about strength training, going to gym, right? Other forms of exercise. Let's talk about other important aspect. I'd say diet. Diet is huge. I have seen so many people who don't eat the whole day and they think they're healthy. They're not. But they say that's their lifestyle. You know, we have other kinds of diet options right now. We have intermittent fasting. Some people follow some specific forms of nutrition. And then we hear a lot about protein intake, right? But most of the people are not aware of how much they should eat or how much protein do we really need.
I would say the average person, you're lifting a decent amount, you're not going crazy. 1 to 1.2 grams per pound of protein, I would say is a great place to start. And if you're lifting a little bit heavier or, maybe you're an athlete or something like that, maybe playing around, but generally that 1 to 1.2 grams per pound is definitely a great place to start.
Okay. Crysthian, let's talk about protein shakes. I know they're very good. I do drink them. But do you think they're good replacement for diet?
Replacement, no, absolutely not. Replacement, not. If I would say more, not necessarily. Depends on the situation, really. If you have the time, the energy to be able to just cook and get your protein through like an actual whole food source, I would say that's definitely the better way to do it. Given if you don't have much time or maybe you miss a meal, it's a great way to kind of supplement for it. Hence why they're called supplements. But in terms of replacement, no. Am I saying that protein shakes are bad? No. But it really depends on, are you taking the protein shake because you need it, or are you taking the protein shake because you're being lazy and you don't want to cook the extra food, right? But in terms of a full replacement, you're going to get a much better results getting through food. And on that note as well is the huge conspiracy thing with supplements is the 28 grams you're getting actually 28 grams, or you have absorbing the whole thing, and it really depends on the quality of it as well. Where if you're getting whole food, you know what you're getting, you don't have to worry about the extra additives and stuff like that. So to play in plain terms, not to replace. Not to replace.
That's very good to know. Okay, Christian, this brings me to my next segment. I call it the myth busting segment, or Christian versus the internet.
Oh my God.
So I'm gonna give you some myths. They are very famous or prevalent on the internet right now, and I want you to give honest opinion on them. If they're true or false, maybe a little explanation.
Okay.
Let's go. So the first myth is sweating means fat loss.
No, no, no. That is definitely not the case. To put an explanation for it, a very little one, it's going to be much more of calories in versus calories out. Not how much you sweat. You're not going to be losing weight. Do not get me wrong. Can you lose some weight? Yes. Is that fat? No.
You need to work out every day.
Need? Absolutely not. Depending on what your needs are, it can fluctuate. But working out every single day is not necessarily going to be beneficial, especially if you're new, someone who's new to the gym or to working out.
Cardio is the best for fat loss.
Abs are made in the kitchen. We talked about this. Abs are made in the kitchen. The cardio might be a bit of a supplement, but if you want some abs, get in the kitchen, please.
Carbs make you fat.
I love my I'm Mexican. I love my tacos. I love my carbs, but no, they do not make you fat. It's the amount of carbs that you're taking that is going to make you fat. There's a very quick I wouldn't say experiment necessarily, but this guy I don't remember what chocolate it was, but he had chocolate. Was it for 2 weeks or 3 weeks? He had a calorie deficit. He had only chocolate. He ate below the calorie deficit and he lost weight. Am I saying go out and only eat chocolate? No. But if you get a little bit of knowledge on what calorie deficits are in your macros, you're going to do much better than the alternative.
You are too old to start lifting.
No, absolutely not. No, definitely not. Like I said earlier, the older you get, the more reason you should be lifting. Will you need a little bit of guidance and maybe a little bit of specialized advice? Yes. Is it going to be a lot harder? Yes, but it's going to be a lot harder for you not to lift, get into your 60s and 70s and not be able to walk.
Pain means progress.
I'm getting pulled two ways because like my ego's saying yes, but realistically, no. Like pain is not necessarily sharp pains or acute pains or something that happens while you're in this. It's never a good idea. A burn is different. Pain and burn are two different things. You might have to experience it a little bit, but no pain, no gain is right to a degree. But DOMS, which is the onset soreness, a certain level of it is important, but it doesn't mean that you have to feel pain to grow, especially for people who are intermediate to experts or advanced levels. Your DOMS might not be as prevalent, which doesn't mean that you're not getting as much of a better workout. So, no.
That's very good to know. So this segment alone, it busted half of the fitness Instagram. Thank you for that, Christian. Yeah. Christian, let's talk about steroids. Are they the shortcuts to achieve the goals and the dream body?
They are a shortcut. They are a shortcut. They will get you what you want, but they are going to also give you a lot of things you don't want. I have a lot of friends who, again, I played sports and football in general, who have taken steroids, and a lot of them are bald now. So if you like your hair, probably shouldn't do it. Also, just in terms of, not going to drop any names, but I have had a couple friends who have done steroids who definitely say that it's very mentally taxing as well. I would compare it to the body dysmorphia that women probably face a lot of time, because number one, if you get a lot of you will get a lot of results. You might get used to that body, and you might get used to how fast you get that body. And I will say, there's a lot of people who have taken steroids about 6, 7, 8 years ago who I even looked up to and thought, oh my goodness, look at their physique, and now they are like an empty shell of what they were before. So if you want to do shortcuts, just understand that there's going to be a negative outcome in the long term.
Okay, this makes me question. I know lots of bald guys who are very, very well, I'll say very fit. Now I know. Thank you for that, Christian. Christian, if I ask you, what is one thing that you think is actually stopping people from either achieving their fitness goals or even, say, begin their fitness journey?
One thing it kind of ties in with the steroids is like when I was first starting working out, there's probably like one or two dudes in the gym who
Hmm.
clearly were on gear
Hmm.
and clearly on steroids. But nowadays it's very much accessible.
Hmm.
Almost every other person, again from my perspective, the people that I know,
Hmm.
are very they have little tilt here. Most, not all, but a lot of the people who you see online, especially because now we're in the TikTok and the Instagram phases, a lot of people are taking steroids and claiming that they are natty, you know? Not to bat them, but that's a huge thing because TikTok and Instagram has a huge pull on on a lot of things. Um, and it's just unhealthy for us. It makes us discouraged because we see these like average people
Yeah.
online
Hmm.
who are beautiful from top to bottom, and we think, wow, we're never going to get like that because we're also being fed the lie that this is I'm natural,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's one huge thing. But more importantly, more than anything, is ourselves.
Hmm.
We're always going to be our biggest, whether it's an ego who's overestimating or an ego that's underestimating, or fear.
Hmm.
Generally, we need to fail. We have to fail. I think we have this idea that we need to like start something and get to the end and everything's perfect. No, you're gonna fail. You're gonna try. You might get injured or things might happen along the way. But if you just take action, you'll be much better off than sitting there and wondering and twiddling your thumbs. I got lucky that I got started because I was playing football and I was
Hmm.
forced into it. But if I didn't play football or sports, I really don't know where my life would be. I
Yeah.
really don't know. I'm not gonna say it would be necessarily in a positive place.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. Sports do play, I think, a very important role for you mentally, physically, right? Overall growth.
mm,
Yeah. So I think all the kids, especially who are growing up, the teenagers, they should be involved in some kind of physical activity.
mm,
If not gym yet, maybe some other kind of sports or um, taekwondo or some other kind of activity so that they can actually focus and engage their energy in the positive realm.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Now, Christian, let's talk about this. How do you think that fitness gives an edge to an individual in life and in business?
I mean, it's quite easy. I'm just trying to remember the
Hmm.
quote because I remember this. There was a quote that my boss said.
Hmm.
She was my boss at Club 16, but something along the lines of like she would rather choose someone who
Hmm.
is been in the gym for like a decent, like say 2 3 4 years, is disciplined and is consistently going without stopping.
Hmm.
She would rather take that person than someone who is quote unquote more qualified on paper,
Hmm.
because stress, whether it's in the gym, stress, whether it's your business or your work or in life, stress is stress.
Hmm.
So the more you're exposed to it, the more likelihood that you're going to be able to deal with it better.
Hmm.
So if you're somebody who goes to the gym, and we're talking about whether you are motivated or disciplined, you don't feel like going, but you still go,
Hmm.
what's the difference between doing that and going home and having the 100 calls you have to do, not wanting to do it, but do it? Yes, your one is physical. Yeah, one is mental, but generally your brain doesn't know the difference necessarily.
Yeah.
Whether it's stress in the gym, whether it's stress in the sauna, whether it's stress at your work, your brain the stress is kind of feels the same internally at the end of the day. So
Hmm.
if you can discipline yourself to do things day
Hmm.
in, day out, whether you want to do it or not, which a lot of times, let's be honest, unless you're somebody who's been doing it for a very long time and you got your things together, you enjoy going to the gym. But there's always a period of time that goes up and down where like you just don't like it. You don't want to go. You're
Hmm.
tired. I got my kids. I got my family. I got my work. I got to do these calls. You have every excuse. But if you're able to just put that aside and still go to the gym, I would rather have that kind of person in my circle than somebody who, just generally looks good on paper and has more experience at the job we're doing. I'm gonna take the person that is more disciplined in the gym,
Yeah.
personally.
Definitely. So, for me personally, I can say that even in my line of my business and the other jobs that I do, I'd say that going to gym has been excellent for me personally. When you're training, your posture changes and you're more confident. And I think people can receive that energy. They see that discipline through. So it's not just the gym where you're working out, it also affects the other areas of your life. And for me, totally, and I think for many, many people, it's not just the body gains, it's life gains.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, it's internal at the end of the day. Yes, physically we change,
Hmm.
but I think more, we don't see it as much, but internally we change more. We build confidence as well, like not just like spiritually, but like your endorphins, your dopamine, your
Oh, yeah.
serotonin, like all these things are affected. you know. And if anybody who's been out there who's trained or had a really, really good day at work or at the gym, sorry, or at the yoga studio or whatever, and you leave, there's a feeling you get, you know, and that is something that I feel you can't really replicate, you know. And one of the easier ways to do that is go to the gym and be confident and be doing those things, because as we learn, as we're in the gym and we grow confident, there we still grow. It still correlates into the outside world.
Okay, yes. This brings me to my next segment, which is called the rapid fire. Oh, so, rapid questions, rapid answers, no explanation.
Okay.
Have a sip of water.
All right, ready to rock.
Ready to rock? All right. Let's go. Morning workout or evening workout?
Both. Morning for light to get myself started, evening to go hard and go to sleep.
Most overrated exercise?
The crunch.
Yes, I was going to say that. Most underrated exercise?
Underrated? Oh, man. Bulgarian split squats.
Oh, wow. That's a hard one.
It's a hard one.
Best supplement?
Creatine. Creatine, for sure.
Okay. Favorite cheat meal?
Oh. 2 salmon avocado rolls, order of spicy salmon sashimi, 2 Cokes, and 3 salmon nigiris.
Ah!
Every time. Every time.
Okay. One habit everyone needs.
Ooh, man. Let's go journaling. Journal.
Yes. You're manifesting the thoughts. You're putting your words in thoughts, and that's the most beautiful way. Yes. Cardio before or after weights?
Cardio before, after. Depends on your goals. You're looking for strength and power and gains that way. You can do weights first, cardio after. You're looking for endurance or the other end of the spectrum, you're going to do it first.
Okay. Free weights or machines?
Free weights.
Free weights.
For sure.
Yes. Okay. If you only had 20 minutes, what do you train?
Legs.
Legs.
Legs and core.
Legs are the biggest muscle for sure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Crysthian. I am going to ask you one closing question, and this would be great for my audience. Now, I want you to use 4 sentences to describe what an ideal 2026 should look like.
I would say, since I over-explain in my personal experience, I over-explain and overthink everything. But for me, it would be not 4 sentences, but more just one. Take action. Learn to take failure and learn from your failure. Move forward and be present. That's it.
That's an excellent message. Love it. Yeah. And I think you learn more from your failures than any successes ever in life.
Yes. And people are a little too scared to fail, you know. And I feel the person that I am shaped today was made by failures, you know. There's a lot of good things in my life that made me who I am today. But I can't discredit the fact that all my mistakes and all my failures is actually what made me truly who I am today.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a proof. If you fail, it's a proof that you actually tried.
Well, yeah, that's like I always say too. I love failures. I love failures because the failure actually showed up to the ring. They showed up, they fought, and even if they failed and they lost, they still showed up. And I want that person on my team. I don't want a person in the audience or sitting at home eating popcorn. I want a person who had the balls to show up, fail, and then hopefully learn from the mistake.
Wow, that's an excellent closing message. Thank you so much, Crysthian.
Thank you so much for having me here.
And you know what? You're not just motivating. You're so honest, and that shines through your personality. And I am very certain that this episode will actually make most of my viewers hit the gym and kickstart their fitness journey for 2026. Get there. And to my lovely audience, today's episode is a reminder that fitness isn't vanity. It's actually self-respect. Strength builds confidence, discipline builds character, and consistency builds your life you don't need recovery from. My huge thanks to Crysthian for being honest and bringing such good energy to the room. Thank you so much, Crysthian. If this episode challenged you, make sure to share it with someone who needs that little push. This is Rooted and Rising. Until next time, stay happy, stay connected. Thank you so much.